Well, well, well. How the turntables have turned back to their original position. Because here I am making another advice video for those who want to come to Colorado. And I haven't made a video like this in many months, and honestly the best reason I can give you guys is that I don't really know what else to tell you. Last year I made a lot of videos with advice about Colorado, about the weather here, about pretty much everything, and I guess I just got burned out. I didn't know what else to tell you, but we're back because things have evolved and we're getting some more advice here. Which is why today I am answering your top 10 most frequently asked questions about Colorado. This is going to be the part 1 of the video. Look out, hopefully within the next short relative amount of time there will be a part 2. But since I've had so many videos up about the state that I live in and love, I've gotten a lot of random questions. So I thought, why not just compile a lot of those questions into general questions that I can answer in a video so everyone benefits. But first, I haven't even introduced myself yet because a lot of you looking on this, you might not know who I am. Why am I making all these videos about Colorado? Who are you? Well, I'm Genevieve and I am a Colorado native. I was born and raised in Boulder, Colorado, and I happen to be living in Boulder right now, but I've also lived in other places in the United States and also out of the country, and all of that has given me a really good perspective on what makes Colorado a little bit different in terms of what you need to know about moving here as opposed to anywhere else in the country. I'm not a real estate agent. I don't have any agenda to sell you anything. I'm just someone who genuinely likes to help people and give advice, and I have pretty good insights onto things. So here I am on YouTube, your new friend. And as your new friend, I'm actually not going to pressure you to subscribe to my channel or anything because this channel is a lot. I am a true Gemini and I have a lot of different interests that all have like kind of a really different vibe. So I think sometimes people subscribe to me and they're like here for the Colorado content, and then I'm giving them like ghosts and randonautica and they're like, what did I sign up for? But if you're cool enough to hang and you're down for just whatever content appears in your feed, then maybe you're also a Gemini and I appreciate you, and please subscribe. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Let's get into these questions. I have them written in my phone. Question 1 is also extremely valuable to you and everyone, and that question is it worth it to move to Colorado? Good question, and the unfortunate answer is yes and no. Of course, it has to be complicated. Colorado has tons and tons of new people moving into the state every single day. We are just filled with transplants. And it's very common that new people move here and they don't even last a year here, which is sad. And you might be asking yourself, well, why is that? And the most general answer I can give to that question is people don't last long here sometimes because it's difficult to truly put down roots here and feel truly connected to this state sometimes. And I talk about this a lot in some of my other videos, but it's hard to feel plugged into community here. And it's so common that the people who are transplants and moving here are people who are single. So single men and single women, they're coming here, they're getting on Hinge, they're saying that the craziest thing they've ever done is just decided to pack up and move to Colorado. They don't know anybody and they're looking for community, and they typically have a hard time doing that. There's just something about the culture here where I don't know if it's a freeze or whatever you want to call it, but people are very independent here, and once people are established here, they don't normally like include other people, if that makes sense. Like, so if you're just a random transplant, it will take you a lot of time to get ingratiated into a wider community. And a lot of people just don't have the patience for that. So this question of is it worth it or not to move to Colorado, it's really nuanced and specific to you. I would ask yourself 3 things. What kind of community do you personally know you need in order to feel plugged in to where you're living? That's question number 1. Are you someone who actually likes to spend a lot of time alone? Do you like going into the mountains alone? Or are you good just having a few close friends? You know, or do you need a really big, wide community? I mean, you can have all of those things in Colorado, but it depends on your personality type and being honest with yourself in terms of what you need right off the bat and what you're able to actually achieve and push yourself to do. So that was the first question. What kind of community do you really need? Second question is, what are you actually moving here for? Like, are you moving here for a job? Are you moving here for school? Are you just winging it and you don't even have anything here yet, but you just want to live here? Because those things will also affect how quickly you meet new people, how quickly you get plugged in. Because if you are moving here, especially for a job, you will probably, you've got coworkers and stuff. So you will hopefully, meet people more quickly than if you're just moving here, like just winging it and you don't know anybody. So that's the second question. The third question, are you moving here based on an idealized fantasy? Because I've also found that's really, really common for people who are transplants here, is they have this idea in their head that Colorado with the mountains and like the hot people everywhere, that we are going to, oh, sorry. Sometimes I say things and I'm like, what am I saying? But it's true. There's a lot of hot people and a lot of mountains in Colorado. But people move here thinking that somehow this state is going to save them in some way. Like it's going to just naturally give them this lifestyle in this utopia that will fill in the gaps that are missing in their lives. But unfortunately, wherever you move, there you are. And so if you're moving here trying to outrun something, or just run away from something, or you want to fill a void in your soul and you think that it's going to happen here, I mean, maybe it'll happen here, but oftentimes it doesn't, and you just get more disappointed and you end up going back to where you were, or you go somewhere else. So it's a complicated question. Is it worth it? So much depends on you, if you're single, if you have a family, where you're gonna move, because there's places that are obviously super, super expensive. It's a very nuanced question, and that's why I say you've got to be honest with yourself and ask yourself some questions about what are your motivations for moving to this state. Okay, that was a deep question. We started deep, and now we're gonna pull out. I'm cracking myself up today. We're gonna get a little more shallow now. Do I need a 4x4 vehicle to live in Colorado? This is a question I've actually, probably the most commonly asked question I get is, do I need like some sort of 4x4 vehicle to live in Colorado? And the answer is no. But again, even this answer is a little bit nuanced in that if you are moving to the mountains or somewhere in the high country where you're literally living in the middle of nowhere, or you're gonna be on like a dirt road, where there are some locations where you do need some sort of truck or 4x4 vehicle to live there. But in general, most people who are moving to my state are moving along the Front Range, which is the foothills that run along the Rocky Mountains from north to south. And you don't need a 4x4 vehicle to live in the Front Range. What I do recommend though is that you either get really good all-season tires for your car, or you get good snow tires for your car. For me personally, I drive a Subaru. I don't even think it's a 4-wheel drive Subaru though. But I do have good all-season tires on it, and I've never had a problem. But I'm also very used to driving in Colorado snow. You have to remember also that Colorado is not like blanketed in snow all winter. It's not like the Midwest where we're in some like super deep freeze. Part of the reason people like to move here is because we have so much sun, and it's very common here that we'll have a snowstorm come in maybe. We'll be blanketed with snow for maybe a couple days at most, but the sun comes back and the warmth comes back and it'll melt it all. And we go through these cycles in the Front Range of having big snowstorms. It melts, it gets dry again, and then we have another snowstorm. So it's not like snow all winter that you're constantly driving through ice and snow. We have our moments, but it's not crazy snow all the time like some people who haven't been here a lot might think. I also have a whole nother video about the weather, and I think I even talked about this car thing in that video, so I will link that somewhere, because that's a good video to watch if you really want to understand weather and other things about the state that you're a little bit confused about. All right, next question. Oh, this is another question that I have gotten a lot. And that is, can I sleep in my car year round? This is unfortunately a common question because a lot of people who want to move here don't want to obviously pay the high prices of housing that exist here. So a lot of people want to do kind of like a van life situation, or even just living out of their car. It's very, very common. And unfortunately, it gets cold enough in Colorado that to sleep in your car or to sleep in some sort of van that doesn't have some sort of heating system in it would be really dangerous. Because even though I just said that, we're not always covered in snow 24/7 in the winter, it does get really, really cold here at night fairly often. It also gets really windy and just yucky at night. It's unpredictable. We can even have sometimes weeks at a time, and especially like in January, February, even March, where it'll be like really freezing for some reason during that time of year. And it's just unpleasant. You will suffer. You could even die if you're living in your car trying to stay warm with just a sleeping bag. So I don't recommend that. What I do recommend is that you do some sort of temporary lease situation in the winter months. So finding a cheap room somewhere and renting that out for the winter. And then once the spring hits, it gets warmer, then it's totally fine to sleep in your car or in your van that's not heated in those warmer summer months. Oh goodness, this next one is a doozy, and that is, why is Colorado so expensive? And the sarcastic, resentful version of me wants to say, well, because of people like you, because so many people are moving here, and the supply-demand thing is kind of off. We've got so much demand, not enough supply, or limited supply. Obviously, it's going to make that supply a lot more expensive. But that's not really the full answer. A lot of people think that Colorado is expensive because it's such a beautiful, like kind of just quintessential mountain wonderland, but that's not why, because there's other states like Wyoming. I was gonna say Utah, but Utah is actually a little bit expensive as well, but I don't think it's expensive as Colorado. But places like Wyoming, even Montana, they are also beautiful mountain states with a kind of a similar topography and weather situation as we have a little bit, but they are noticeably less expensive than Colorado. And in 2021, Colorado officially made it into the top 10 most expensive states to live in the United States. So there's definitely something fueling the expensiveness of this. And it's not just that it's a beautiful mountain state, because like I said, there's other beautiful mountain states. Why aren't they getting this kind of weird, expensive clutch that my state is? And honestly, again, nuance, but part of my theory for this is because of the companies that are investing in moving to our state. A lot of the Silicon Valley tech companies are moving into here. We obviously have a huge Google presence now and other tech companies, and with that comes the kind of price tag and prestige that I guess comes with those companies. What I mean by that is a lot of people who make a lot of money are moving to my state, and because they can afford to buy whatever they want, they are slowly raising the prices of everything because they can pay higher prices. So housing is like pushing and pushing and pushing, knowing that there's enough wealthier people moving here that they'll be able to pay that higher dollar price. So they're constantly pushing the top so that the housing people can make lots of money, the rich people who move here can afford it, but then it's pushing out kind of the middle class that existed here. I mean, the middle class still exists here. You can definitely, even if you do have a lower salary, if you don't make that much money, you can find a way to live in Colorado if you really, really want to. But as you can tell from the way I just described that, I have my own particular kind of sore spot in seeing Colorado turn into this sort of California-cated situation that we have here. Housing is expensive. It's a problem, especially where I live in beautiful Boulder. That is definitely a very high sought after place to live, and that makes the prices just go up and up and up even more. And it's frustrating because then it becomes this sort of like prestigious, only certain kinds of people can live here sort of situation, and you know, that's a tough pill to swallow. Okay, that was sad. Let's get to our last question. I'm going to answer 5 questions in this video. We're going to do 5 more in the next one. So let's end this one on a little bit of a happier note. When is the best time to visit or move to Colorado? This is a good question. And my personal answer is simple, in that I will always recommend visiting or moving in September. And it has nothing to do with the school cycle. Obviously that happens to line up with like school, colleges and stuff start in like that late August, September time. But I actually recommend that because of the weather is so great at that time. You just missed the crazy, weird, arid, hot summer, and September is when we get this beautiful Indian summer usually, where it's still usually pretty warm here, but the leaves are starting to change, and it's just a good transition time to come in. You kind of have time to prepare for winter. It's not too hot out, and you have some time, and then winter comes, and then you get to feel the full experience of spring after you've survived 6 months in your new state. Or even just visiting. I suggest if you're not visiting here because you want to ski, you're just visiting because you want to see places in Colorado, I recommend September. I also recommend June. But September and June are, I think, the best times to visit, to drive around the state, to go to the national parks, to see lots of things. Obviously, if you're coming here because you want to ski, you want to go in like December, January, or, you know, just any time in winter. They're always pumping the snow up there. You're going to be fine whenever the ski resort's open. But September is the best month, unarguably, to me, in my state. I hope you got some value out of watching this. As I said, I have tons of other videos that address a lot of different facets of advice about my state. So please, I have a whole playlist. You can check that out if you would like. I also have, I have a new Patreon. For those of you who know me, I started a Patreon that's kind of based on my healing work. Again, Gemini, also native Boulderite. So of course I'm an intuitive healer. My other channel that's more about intuitive healing, I base the Patreon around that. So I haven't really promoted it on this channel yet. But if you like me $3 a month worth, you could do that on pay if you want. You don't have to, but if you like me that much, you could, or more, because there's other levels and you get more. You could even, there's even a level where you get to do a call with me every month. So if you like that, if you're interested in intuitive healing, because that's what it's obviously about, is we do a lot of healing work together, there's that. Otherwise, I appreciate you. I am glad you have interest in this beautiful state. There is a lot to discover here. There's also other negatives to be aware of. So I'm here for you to help you navigate all of that. And I will see you very soon in part 2 of this video.